cut deep into the depths of Naboo, where the wanderers Morris and Kuth trek through the jungle back toward their colony, which was now looking to be in danger. Morris leads with a light jog while bushwhacking clinging plant life. His third, floating hand holds the mysterious staff that he'd found, carefully at a safe distance. Kuth follows along with his giant webbed-foot beast companion. He was ready to crush anything that was threatening the safety of his new home. Suddenly, Kuth's towering beast companion brushes into a hanging spore pod that falls and crashed right between it and Kuth. Almost immediately, the spores enter into their lungs and they become severely fatigued and sleepy. Morris removes his binoculars from looking off into the distance and turns to signal to Kuth to let them know that the coast is clear, but finds them both deep into a regenerative slumber. Morris sees the pod, then looks up and sees several more Chloe battle pillar pods. He'll be asleep for hours, he thinks. Morris knows he shouldn't leave Kuth behind, vulnerable, nor should he travel alone at night. He has no choice but to wait for Kuth to wake up. Morris stands by. We see turncoat Haven colonists who have been indoctrinated by Vera Zima to serve Atlas, making their way to where they know the leader of the colony, John Sage Quill, was located. Over the river and through the woods, the traitor colonists make their way toward a waterfall and then pass it into a little cave where they find John Sage Quill awaiting news from a messenger runner. John turns around and spots the approaching colonists, then turns back, thanking them to be Allah. Who sent you to? John asks. They look at each other and respond by telling him that Ica sent them. They move closer to John with his back still facing them, preparing to grab him. He wasn't known to get rough. When suddenly, John turns around with a Jacob-rigged shotgun and with 2 pumps, lifts and fills up both traitors' bellies with burning hot slugs. We pan up slowly to John holding the rifle with a smoking barrel as his large, crazy grin shapeshifts into a soft, freckly face of a girl, Ethel Jones. She pulls her wrist up to her face and begins whispering into her watch. You were right. We have traitors who are leading Atlas to our safe tunnels. She stops when she spots Jace Beleren and Atlas mercenaries enter the waterfall. Before they detected her, she was able to flee. They approach and search and investigate the fresh dead bodies of his spies. Jace looks disturbed. He can smell the recent gun smoke. The assortment of rocks on the north wall of the cave was rather peculiar. Jace commands his spies to scour the cave walls. We cut to Ethel jumping out of a hidden hole in the jungle and just doesn't lose momentum as she sprints from her pursuers. Ethel has been an essential participant in the colony's attempts to gain a foothold and fight over the coastal region. Her shape-shifting abilities led to the capture of many Atlas VIPs, resulting in significant leverage. Ethel gets away from Jace Beleren, then comes to a slowing stop when something catches her eye. She peeks her head through a clearing and sees Morris studying his mysterious staff and Kuth asleep beside his beast. Morris! Ethel shouts as she runs toward him excitedly. Morris is startled when he looks up to see Ethel Jones trampling toward him with the shotgun dangling out of her coat recklessly, as usual. Morris puts both hands out and heavily encourages her to get a handle of her firearms. Ethel was a close friend of the Wanderers and would sooner strangle Jeremiah herself than let them take over. She brings Morris up to speed on the events that had transpired within the colony, from the false flag attack during the staged treaty to the Legion monsters making their night in the jungle a living abyss. Ethel offers to sneak Morris and Kuth into their hidden underground haven, but Morris explains that Kuth's situation is making that a bit difficult. But Ethel urges Morris to come with her immediately. Atlas's hound Virazima has uncovered their trails, and soon the colony's underground safe havens will be discovered next. Morris contemplates. And really thinking about it, there is likely nothing that could devour an entire barbarian the size of Kuth. Wouldn't be the first time he slept in the wild. Morris agrees to head back to the colony with Ethel. With her guidance, she leads Morris into the under canals of the colony, right under Atlas's nose. The underground panic rooms were carved deep into the rocky walls of the planet. There were hundreds of yurts, built in rows, and several flying drones patrolling the avenues providing heat, food, and medical aid. Morris is met with open arms. The colonists, survivors, were happy to see 1/3 of the wanderers at least, and Morris was floored by the travesties that have transpired during his absence. A group of colonists walk by, scowling at Morris, making intense eye contact. Some survivors blame the wanderers for how bad things turned out for the colony. Morris and Kuth went hiking, and Nomad acted on his own volition, initiating a kamikaze mission against Atlas. The people felt abandoned. Morris felt the resentment in their stares. A familiar voice echoes from over his shoulder. "Don't mind the angry glares." Morris turns around and sees John Sage Quill, tightening his Kevlar vest under his clothes in preparation to head to the surface. Morris greets John but is immediately cut off by John's unit of young Nebi soldiers and a Haven guardsman. John informs Morris that there's little time to catch up because tonight is the only opportunity that they have to rescue an important ally. Morris pushes himself past John's armed entourage, and Morris apologizes to his ally, John. "Look, it wasn't our intention to abandon you all. We had no idea Atlas would have gone off the rails like this. I'm back now, and I'm here to help our people and take back our colony." Morris clenches his fist tight. John can sense his passion and accepts Morris's assistance. The Haven guardsman hands Morris a functioning modified replica of the big iron hand cannon, but Morris declines. "Who needs rescuing?" he asks. John pulls up his hood. "They have Nomad." This troubled Morris. How the hell could they have captured Nomad, he thinks. John continues. "I don't need to explain why his return is monumental." John beckons Morris to come, and their small covert unit ascends into the Nebi jungle. Razul, the demon chef, treks through the colony outskirts, deep in thought, gathering new and obscure ingredients for his next extraordinary dish. He stops at a strange bush he hadn't encountered before. Berries the size of baseballs hang from rows of vines coiled and tangled within one another. The bush glistens from the juices seeping from its self-inflicted punctures by way of its razor-edged thorns. Its vibrant hue reminded Razul of Aika's gigantic eyes as she risked her own life speaking out against Atlas in his restaurant. Though the timing was bad, it wasn't lost on Razul. He retrieves one and stows it away along with the glowing tea leaves and inverted Nebi shrooms he found growing under a sleeping barbarian. Razul then spots something glowing deep behind the greenery. He pushes his way through the shrubs and finds a small clearing, a strange oasis, if you will, filled with glowing lush plant life overgrown by twice its normal size. Razul walks toward the source and finds a young, unconscious woman lying on a bed of breathing flowers pulsating with life. Her beauty took a moment to process. Then shortly, Razul could detect that she wasn't normal, or at least didn't smell like any normal being. He crouches and picks a peculiar flower that was wildly affected by the radiating life energy pouring from the mysterious young woman and coursing through the grass he walked on. This ingredient is indeed intriguing. Razul gets an idea and sets his eyes on the anomalous woman laying before him, who we know as Ebony. We cut to an Atlas mercenary standing within a sealed testing facility. Beside him was a small table, and across the room, a dead Khalidian shaman propped up as a suitable organic target. The merc looked nervous as he peers down at a mysterious shabby pistol laying before him. The intercom in the room cuts on, and we hear a quiet, soft-spoken voice whisper, "Proceed." The merc picks up the unwieldy gun and holds it firm in his grip. It was oddly shaped, and the vial attached to the nose of the gun was not only an unknown substance, but was merely contained in what seemed like glass, or so it seemed. It didn't appear safe to shoot at all, to be honest. Several beads of sweat drip down from the merc's receding hairline as he holds the gun out, pointed to the target. The intercom cuts on. "Proceed," the eerie voice utters again. The merc closes his eyes and pulls the trigger when suddenly the entire weapon shatters and explodes in its hands, leaving nothing but a flesh wound from the glass. The merc curses and falls to the floor in fear of his life, but soon realizes nothing really happened. He was happy to be alive and soon makes his way back up onto his feet. "You almost killed me, you whack job. Can you let me out of here now?" The merc waves his arms toward the one-way glass when suddenly he stops and watches his own fingers fall over his head to the floor. Huh? He looks down at 3 of his digits melting into the side of his boot. What the f... He looks down at his own hand as the pain begins to peak through his recent spike of adrenaline. The mercenary begins wailing in agony as the atoms in his body begin to destabilize slowly but wildly. He scurries over to the glass, pleading to be let free. A cold, soft voice whispers through the comms. "Dying for knowledge is honorable." The merc's suit begins to melt into him, turning him into a soupy and discombobulated puddle of mass, until slowly evaporating into thin air. The camera pans to the other side of the one-way glass, where we see Korozia Takishny observing the fruits of his craft and comparing how his newly discovered ionized constituent Gobi compound has intertransmuted itself with the ionized Magnamax toxin. Korozia holds his hand to his chin in deep thought, with the sheer amount of Atlas funding backing his experiment. He wanted to overachieve, and he did. A buzzer goes off in Korozia's lab. He looks up at a floating screen notifying him of his guests. Korozia finishes the formula on his drawing board, then tucks the chalk in his pocket before heading to the surface to greet his guests. Cut to Jeremiah Oliver, accompanied by his 2 bodyguards, the futurist and an irritated Dravko Mas. They approach a heavily guarded bunker, which is the entrance into a new Atlas reactor. a key component to the sustainability of Atlas Nebu, Drafco could feel vibrations seep through the soil beneath his own feet. He was mildly impressed by Jeremiah's rapid expansion. An underground reactor? Jeremiah leads them down into the reactor where he meets Corazia to get an update on his latest advancements. Corazia ascends on an elevator into their room and greets Jeremiah timidly. He makes eye contact with Javko Mas and immediately feels his heart crumble in fear of the large-scale G-type. Jeremiah requests to see the weapon that Corazia informed him of. Corazia, barely containing his giddiness, triggers the steel curtain to lower from around a large vat of glowing blue Magnamax toxin. He then shows them all video footage of what had just happened in the lab earlier with the mercenary. Jeremiah's eyes widen in awe at the grisly demise. Ionized erosion, prolonged exposure to dangerous materials, gases, and abilities of G-types can cause atoms to destabilize. Those exposed to it will also develop a condition that will erode their very being, releasing their body into an aether as a tree would release its leaves into autumn. Jeremiah couldn't believe such an ugly thing could exist. Not even he thought it should, but leverage was power. Jeremiah could make use of power. He credits himself for taking a chance and investing in the madman Corazia Takishny. Perhaps Employee of the Month was in the stars for him. Drafco Mas approaches the vat for a closer look. He also was in awe at Corazia's audacity to create a weapon of mass destruction like this. Corazia informs Jeremiah that the only obstacle has been producing a material that could contain the chemical reaction for weaponization, that is. Jeremiah puts his hand on Corazia's shoulder. Atlas has it taken care of, my friend. There is no limit to what we can achieve. As we speak, 34 tons of manufactured omnium, as you requested, are being unloaded into your lab. Jeremiah tells him to keep up the good work. Corazia felt like he was on top of the world, not because he received praise from the world's most successful CEO, but because he was about to develop an apocalyptic weapon unlike the G-type immune system has ever endured. They leave Corazia Takishny to his devices, but before departing, Drafco Mas turns and takes a long look at Corazia, putting daggers of fear into his heart one more time, then exits. Corazia was swiftly brought to ease at the thought of what awaits him in the lab and immediately descends back into the reactors to finish his work.